Welcome everybody. Good afternoon everyone. Great to have such a strong turnout for our venue members meeting today. In order to keep things running smoothly, please can you all keep your microphones off, which will allow everyone to hear our speakers and presenters. Feel free to use the chat throughout today's meeting and particularly to send in any questions. And if the timings are tight and we don't get a chance to respond directly to your question this afternoon, we will reply outside of the meeting. In terms of a brief HBAA update, I'm just going to cover a few key points. As always, we're here to support you and your businesses through the coming months, and we are trying to get guidance and clarity on that guidance out to you as quickly as we receive it. The good news is it's looking like we're on track for step 3 and the reopening of our industry, which is just over 4 weeks away on May the 17th. So therefore, we will be relaunching our Meet Safe, Meet Smart campaign, which is focused on giving confidence to our customers that we are more than ready to welcome them back safely. So please look out for some information on that. On Monday, following our AGM last Friday, we launched a full schedule of training and educational events for members, which can be found on our website. This includes free training on subjects such as GDPR, TOMS, returning to work, and CBT, or cognitive behavioural therapy, and other topics where we have secured great member rates and discounts, such as living more offline and certified mental health training. And coming up next week, there's a series of workshops running Monday to Friday called the Social Media Challenge. We will resend the link out as a follow-up to today, and please sign up for whatever you fancy. Throughout May, we have a charity walk event where we're asking you to put a spring in your step and walk 50 miles in your own time to raise money for our charity partners, Buses for Homeless and Eventwell. Also on 6th of May, if you want to learn more about sustainability accreditations and the impacts for your venues, you should register for our Clearing the Smoke event. We are very excited to announce that our annual forum will be taking place on the 15th of July at Y Boston Lakes. Obviously, we hope you will join us in person. However, this will be a hybrid event, allowing for virtual attendance too. We are planning for lots of relevant content and will of course be managing the whole event under COVID secure measures to ensure we're looking after your safety and well-being. There will be an optional dinner that evening, and we'll be sending out more information on the whole event in the next few weeks. Finally, from me, this year, HBAA has launched several action groups where you as volunteer members can get involved in projects which will all ultimately drive the association forward. Currently, we have groups for diversity, equity and inclusion, sustainability, social media, and here, hopefully, to talk to you about our recently launched Venue Toolkit action group is Rachel Naylor. Over to you, Rachel. Sure she's in? Rachel?
I don't see Rachel in at the moment, Juliet.
Ah. She was there, Juliet, but I think she's gone. Yeah, I don't know if she's having problems with her internet connection or...
Okay. Oh, well, perhaps we'll come back to Rachel then, and later in the proceedings. Thank you ever so much, Emma. Oh, she here?
Yeah, she was there.
Rachel, can you hear us? Oh, I did see you then.
Yes, here I am. It's just typical, isn't it? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Sorry if you missed your cue. I just said that you were here to just give us a quick update on one of the action groups, which is your action group, which is, over to you.
Yes. Thank you. Sorry about that. Always appropriate timing to drop out, isn't it? Okay, so we're working on our industry toolkit, and this was a session which we launched God, 2 years ago, actually, the memory popped up on my timeline only in the last few days. So it's been a long time, but apparently something else kicked off last year, which kind of put this to the back seat. So it's been relaunched under the new HBAA structure. And we are going to be focusing on quite a few key areas, but I just wanted to let you know who was in the group and who is currently working on the action group. So there's obviously myself and Juliet working alongside. We've got Sarah Franchak from Central Hall Venues, Michelle Barrett from McDonald Hotels, Steve Collins from Hatton Hotels, Bernice Hurd from Amaris Hospitality, and Ellie Foster, who I believe is going by the name of Events by Eleanor now. Now, we originally launched and we talked about lots of different areas of the industry that we wanted to be able to have a one-stop shop really for people to be able to go and get information, somewhere to go for new people, somewhere to go for experienced people. So the top priorities that we're looking at right now, the biggest sector really is recruitment. Now, a lot's changed in the last 2 years, a lot's changed in the last 6 months, but we are putting together some areas where we are looking at trying to recruit new people to our industry, because naturally there has been a lot of loss in the last 12 months, but also how we can regain those people that we've lost from the industry. We're looking at around a day in the life of, so some sort of internal promotion of our industry and why it's great to join our industry. And we're going to be relaunching the careers case studies, which has been an object that we've worked on in the past. Another area is channel management. So we all know that we get bombarded day in, day out at hotel and venue level around, come and join my website, you should be seen on my website. So we're doing all the backbone work now to put together a directory so that when you come to make those decisions with your budget, you can get a really good understanding of what's out there for your particular venue type, what it's going to cost you, and the length of time that we recommend that you subscribe to that channel for to be able to see the return that you're probably going to be expected to get. The third part that we're looking at right now working on is venue to agency presentations, which sounds relatively simple, but let me just reiterate that we have lost a lot of people from our industry, so we're going to be recruiting a lot of fresh faces. They may not be people that are working in our industry or have worked in our industry, and also the nature of the way we communicate. I mean, we're doing it right now, this isn't how we would normally meet, but it's about being up to date, being able to get across the information but in the new world, and also what the agents want to hear, the time limits we might have, and how best to do that. And the final piece that we're working on right now is audience engagement. So we're not only looking at how a speaker or how you can sort of interact with the audience, it's about how you can measure that return on investment, particularly again in the virtual world where right now, because my internet's not working, I can't see anybody. So I could be in theory talking to myself. So it's about how you can get that engagement when you haven't got the face-to-face activity and you've got no sort of, you can't see or interpret people's body language at all. And then once we've launched those pieces and got those live, a couple of other areas we're going to be working on is managing rates, social media, jargon buster, and a benefits directory. So we've got a lot of work going on, a very small team at the moment. So my ask would be today that if there are people out there who think this sounds like a really good idea and they are interested in what we are working on, then please get in touch with myself, Juliet, or any of the working team and put yourself forward, because there are plenty of spaces for people to come along and help us over the next sort of 3 months, 6 months, maybe max, she hopes. So yeah, put yourself forward if you want to come along and help. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rachel. We're now going to move on to our main content sessions for today, and here to introduce the first of these is my fellow Consultant Executive Director, Lou Cowlishaw. Over to you, Lou.
Thanks, Julia. Thanks, Rachel. So today's panel session, we are delighted to welcome our newly appointed venue sector advisors, so Louisa Watson from Why Boston Lakes and also Gareth Warnock from De Vere. And also our HBA membership directors, Callum from Capital Travel and Events and Julie Sherrock from HTS. So very welcome to all of you on this session. What we wanted to do is to spend the next 40 minutes really to understand really working in partnership and recovering together from the inside track from both sides of the coin. So obviously from an agency's perspective, but also from a venue perspective as well. Earlier this year, so in Q1, we conducted a full member survey from an agency perspective and also from a venue's perspective. And we had questions which we identified as helping us to shape the content for the future for this year and beyond, but also to get a real pulse check on what you, our members, are looking for in terms of content, and also what your key focuses are and what your key concerns are for this year as we recover together. So I wanted to kind of hand over to the panel and welcome you all to the stage. And really, as we outlined, the topic is working smarter together to drive business back in, which is great to as a starting point for us to start debate and discuss, you know, how can we work better together? Now is the time, as we've seen in the industry, in terms of a resetting, and we're starting to see people coming back, we're starting to see corporate spending again, but obviously there is a long way to go to where we left off in early 2020. So starting from kind of the first question, as I mentioned earlier, you know, we conducted this survey and we had a huge response from that, which we have started to drip feed kind of the content from it and to share with members. But what I want to do is first of all come over to you, Callum, and also Gareth, is that from the survey that we conducted in Q1, as I mentioned, it showed that 76% felt the customer's biggest concern over their commitment to whether they're staying away in a hotel, service department, whether they're traveling to a meeting or traveling to stay away in accommodation, to book, was safety and security. It wasn't necessarily about the cost, it was safety and security. And as we know, you know, we've all spent a lot of time over this last year and months looking at safety and security in terms of protocols and processes. But really working together, where do you feel that the biggest things that we need to focus on to offer support to overcome these fears? You know, are there things like COVID attrition that will support commitment? Because we have seen a drive in provisional bookings increasing, but actually that conversion level isn't there right now. And what I wanted to do, first of all, to come to you, Callum, is what do you think in terms of how we can work smarter here to encourage the corporates to stay away, to travel, to attend again? What are we missing at the moment, do you feel?
Well, thank you, first of all. Thank you, Lee. Julia. Certainly talking to the guys here at Capita, we are seeing a huge increase in the number of inquiries. I mean, we are seeing it's the 300% increase in the number of inquiries from pre-Easter to post-Easter. Wow. I mean, it's huge. The trouble is conversion's not increasing. So we're seeing trends towards bigger bookings towards the tail end of the year, but there's still there's still a lack of confidence in the cancellations, and that is making customers reticent to actually confirm it, because they first of all, they don't know what's going to happen, if there's going to be another lockdown. They're not confident that if they book an event that they can move it to another date. Doesn't matter when that date is, it could be 2 years away, because they don't know if there's still going to be an interest or requirement for that event. So I think there's still a huge reticence. I think that the other thing, going back to COVID safety and security, that is important, and it's critical at the moment, getting that message across. I think there's a need for consistency in messaging, but at some point soon, and I don't think it's going to be long, it's almost going to be an expected that that's the expectation. You deliver good safety and security as the norm. And at the moment, the feedback we're getting is it's not necessarily price-led. However, all the purse strings are being tightened by the FDs and CFOs. So the decisions to open up and to allow T&E and to allow travel and events, etc., to happen are being restricted from the finance side of things.
Yeah, actually, Gareth, are you seeing that as well from your properties in terms of inquiries increasing, but conversion still staying as it was? Is that something you're seeing throughout your properties as well?
Yeah, very much so. And I'd say it's really important that we work together. There's someone on this Zoom that has really supported us. I don't know if they want to be named or not, so I won't name them. but they've placed with us an event in July, and it was just about really working together to get it over the line, because the customer was a bit hesitant at first about the ability to move, postpone, etc., etc. I think it's a real shame that we haven't, as a collective, been able to come up with some sort of standardized standard in terms of a COVID secure standard. But, you know, I appreciate the commerciality in place. But yeah, we all have our own standards in terms of venues being COVID secure. It's just a shame that there hasn't been one size fits all that spans the industry. But, you know, we are where we are, as I say. But yeah, seen everything similar to what Callum has said.
Yeah, and I think that came from the US as well. You know, they were trying to be that task force for putting in those global standards, but you've got, you know, international chains and UK-centric properties or independents is doing their own thing or trying to do the best in terms of aspiring to accreditation. But I agree with what you're saying in terms of a benchmark, that people have that consistency and knowledge of when they're checking into the property.
Sorry, Lee. It's also it's not just the having a standard of accreditation, but it's almost having standard narratives as well. It's having consistency across the industry about how we communicate, what we communicate, and how and where we communicate. Because it does feel that there are different opinions about how things are interpreted. Yeah. Because as we know, the legislation and everything is quite vague. So independent people are interpreting things through different lenses. So there's no
that's not helpful, is it?
No.
That causes confusion to the corporates, but also it causes confusion of what's right and what's wrong. But as you say, it's not black and white. It's very grey, and that is a challenge that we have. Just staying on with you both, and I think it was you, Gareth, that touched on commerciality there. Supply really does outweigh demand at the moment, as we know, and we talked about there kind of the inquiries that are coming through. And really, you know, we are wanting and aspiring to get back to delivering, but how do you think pricing and commercials are being impacted at the moment? And is this sustainable? Is it still that the corporate's driving the price down, or is it that we actually should stand firm? Because as I've talked about at the beginning, the cheapest isn't maybe the safest at the moment, or maybe the best. And you know, we get on a slippery slope, don't we? If we start to kind of cut our rates and cut our rates and cut our rates, to get ourselves back to a position is really, really tough. So I'll come back to you, Gareth, if I may, first of all. How do you think pricing is being impacted at the moment, and how do you feel that's kind of looking at the commercials in terms of agencies versus venues?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I'd like to, but I'll be foolish in asking everyone to try and hold rate as much as we can, because inevitably people will drop rate, and people will do things in terms of their commercial models. That's to be expected. I think the cheapest isn't always the best. You know, Louisa, if you don't mind, when we were on the pre-briefing call before this, you mentioned elements like sustainability, etc. From a venue's point of view, you know, the cost has increased. The COVID secure measures that we've had to put in place have cost us. I tried to, from De Vere's point of view, get a price per delegate increase and a price per 24-hour delegate increase on the DDR and 24-hour. I haven't been able to get the actual figures, but there will be a additional cost element in terms of safely servicing that business, whether it be day meeting or whether it be residential meeting. Yeah. You know, from the little bits that all add up to, you know, the signage in the hotels, the hand sanitizer stations that we've had to buy, the little De Vere safety at heart little kits we have in the bedroom. I mean, they all carry a cost element. But yeah, I mean, I think it's about us internally as venues also educating our people internally that the world has changed, and we're in a different world now. And I think it's about us as venues working with our agency colleagues in trying to re-educate jointly the customers, and just not dropping rate all the time, because it's impossible to get it back. And as I say, it's more expensive with the COVID secure measures in place to actually service that business for the time being.
No, agreed. And Callum, from your perspective?
Yeah, exactly the same. We are trying to build narratives, so we're trying to work with partners to understand what that additional cost to service COVID is, because again, from our point of view, in my point of view, I'm in that sort of middle ground where we're trying to keep the customers happy and service them with good value rates, but also we commission off the, so it's counterintuitive. We're actually trying to work with the customers to build narratives that actually show that actually the reality is you're getting very good rates at the moment. There is a cost to services, as Gareth has just said, so there's a cost to service COVID. And actually, if you go out there and try and secure lower rates now, there is a risk that in the long term, the supply of property will be reduced because it's not sustainable. And that in the long term will drive up rates. So the general feedback we're getting from our customers is that they're comfortable with the rates. Oh, excuse me.
Is that a Teams call?
Yeah.
Story of everyone's lives, that noise.
So yeah, most of our customers accept and appreciate that. But again, you're dealing with procurement, and procurement.
Yeah. Most bottom line, isn't it?
Yeah. So we are working hard to try and move away from rates being the primary driver. It's value. It's what else can we do, and that's what we offer. It's not just good rates. It's the relationships we have with you guys as venues. It's the full service. Yeah. Nobody wants to get involved in the race at the bottom.
No, I agree with that, and I think as well it's now the time, as you say, to educate the corporates, because as a traveller who's been used to sitting at home for the last 12 months and looking down the screen that we're doing at the moment, when we do get back to attending a meeting or staying away in a service department or a venue or a hotel, is that do you want to be going and being placed in the cheapest property that actually doesn't satisfy your needs that you've been used to for the last year? And how will you feel valued as an employee if you are put in the cheapest that doesn't actually hold everything? So I think it's a really fair point that it is about education to the corporate. And as you say, it is difficult when people are looking at bottom line like procurement, but definitely I think policies are changing and you bringing in more of the HR, the culture, the people aspect rather than just bottom line cost savings.
It's certainly helping this because HR are involved and HR are not necessarily looking at the bottom line. I think, and as Gareth mentioned, sustainability. The fact that there's still a massive focus on sustainability, clearly from a venue's point of view, if rates are dropping and costs are going up, something's got to give. So the quality of service is going to be given to customers, or the sustainability element, something's going to give. Yeah. So there is a definite, but again, this is where there needs to be consistency of messaging. And whilst we will go out and talk to our customers, we know that other agencies may not necessarily. Other agencies might go out and talk based on price.
And it's got to be a balance, hasn't it? Really has got to be a balance.
Absolutely. It's long term. You can't just go for a short term gain.
No, absolutely. Julie, I'm going to come to you now. Hello. Hopefully you're there. I'm sure I've seen you come in.
I'm
Hi,
here.
how you doing?
Hi. Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Good. So welcome. What I wanted to talk to you about is that obviously, as I mentioned there, we've had a long time doing what we're doing now, and soon we're going to be looking at our family through a lens rather than looking through work colleagues, which is going to be a real change for some people. Where do you feel that disconnect has happened in terms of people not wanting to attend? I think you as a business have done a recent survey in terms of what does that mean to the end traveller, the end guest, the end delegate. Is that going to be a real struggle for us to get people to actually leave their homes and attend a meeting in person, do you think?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you very much for having me today, and good to see you all, and so many of you all on the call here, so thank you. Yes, as Lee said, here at HTS, we did a survey to our clients about 6 weeks ago now. We've done 2 over the sort of 4-week period. And we basically wanted to try and identify when our clients are going to start to come back, and when they start to come back, what's going to be on the forefront of their minds, what are their greatest concerns, and what's going to encourage them and get them back out and feeling confident in staying. And it was quite surprising that confidence fell down towards the bottom of the list of what people was popping as their priority. Their welfare and track and trace and booking COVID safe hotels were coming to the top. So, you know, the element of going to a COVID safe environment was very key, but their actual consideration of their confidence in travelling was bottom. I think it came 4 out of 5 categories that we asked them to indicate on. So I was surprised, also relieved at that. But also, if you look over the last week or so, our pub gardens are packed. You can't get into the hairdressers for 6 weeks. I went shopping on Tuesday. It was rammed, and there was queues getting into Marx's. Yeah. So then when you think of confidence, that there isn't that lack of confidence there. People are out there and cannot wait to get out there. So hopefully, if we can communicate and promote that our hotels are a safe environment, and, you know, everything has been done accordingly, and, you know, government guidelines, etc., then maybe that same confidence that everybody's got is going back to the pub and the hairdressers and the shopping will follow through to attending events. And I think it's key to how we communicate that our hotels are safe environments to be coming to, and that, you know, it's going to be a comfortable and a pleasant experience rather than being clinical or unnerving or unwelcoming. And some of our travellers have already started to come back, and it is overwhelming to see some of their comments that they're emailing in how nice the hotels were and how welcoming the hotels still were, and what they were anticipating and thinking their stay might be like. It actually wasn't. And I think if we can start to communicate and post more of those more positive experiences of people starting to re-travel and how they're finding it, that will start to build more confidence in others that it's actually not that bad out there, and it's not as sterile or clinical as they think it might be.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think some of it is, obviously it's personal choice, isn't it? It's personal. You choose to go to the pub, you go to the hairdressers, but actually when you're attending, it's because you're being told to do that. And I think, again, the controls, kind of the pendulum swung a bit, hasn't it, at the moment, where, you know, you have the choice at the moment, or you have to stay at home, so you can't attend. So I do think some of it is anxiety and fear of the unknown, because it's been so long. I mean, I'm in London today. I haven't been here for 5 months, and I was away 2-3 nights a week before the pandemic started. I have to say I was apprehensive about getting on the train this morning, just because I haven't done it for so long, but it's absolutely fine. It is fine, but it is that overcoming that fear, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think more stories, yeah.
Yeah.
I think more stories like you just spoke about, that you were feeling a little anxious about getting on that train, but actually when you got on it, it was actually normal, fine, and you felt comfortable. And I think if more confident posts like that can start getting out there in the social media, that we can all start reading them, then more people, that anxiety will get lessened, and more people will then start doing it. But I mean, I was delighted when some of our clients were sending some, you know, these positive reviews back, and they were literally saying, wasn't like I thought it was going to be. You know, the Holiday Inn accommodated it fantastically. I felt safe. I felt this. And those comments, if we can really start churning those out and circulating them everywhere, that will definitely build it up and get the ball rolling a bit quicker, I think.
Just to add in, I also think that once furlough ends and people actually have to go back to work and offices reopen, that's when people will start to get back to some level of normality.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when you're talking about attending events, these people always attended events before and thoroughly enjoyed attending the events and being away. It was part of their business life. So I think there'll be a small percentage who have quite liked not travelling and might rethink their careers, but I think the majority that used to do it before will be desperate to be doing it again. I know I can't wait to go out on my next, you know, my first event and see it. You know, I haven't actually got a date in the diary yet, but I desperately can't wait to put one in. So I know I'm feeling like that. And if the majority of people that travelled before travelled so regularly, they're going to be feeling the same as well. So the confidence, the anxiety, yes, they're going to be a little bit nervous, but they're desperate to come out and start again and go to the events.
And it's like everything, isn't it? Once you do it once, you're absolutely fine. You just got to see it for yourself. And I think a lot of it is because it's the unknown that we haven't done it for so long, and you get out of the routine. I came out of the tube station this morning that I've been 1,000 times and I'd forgotten what exit is. Those sort of things that you forget, but you soon pick them back up. And I think the more that we can shout about it is okay, it is safe, and you can't get the experience from an event unless you attend in person or live. You're getting that chat around the coffee machine, or you're networking with somebody and picking back up. I mean, I'm sure all of us on this call just cannot wait to get back to that sort. And also our customers as well, they will benefit from having that. It's not even face to face, it's shoulder to shoulder, and that's where we're aspiring to.
Yeah,
Lou, I'm going to come to you now, if I may. Oh, go on, Gareth.
No, sorry, Lee. I was just going to say, I think Julie mentioned it. I think initially it may be more of an ask rather than a tell. So ask as in, would you like to come along to this, as opposed to a tell. Yeah, I mean, people just have to get confident again.
Yeah. When we reopened our office, Gareth, we did a 3-week lead up to it, where the office was open every day and they could choose to come in, and if they wanted to. They were asking for the office to be open, which is why we did it. But there, we were still also conscious that we were doing it fairly early. So the 3 weeks leading up to the 29th, we said it was optional. And the week before the 29th, they needed to come in at least twice. So even if they didn't want to optionally before, the week before they actually did get into the routine. And to be honest, the week before the 29th, everybody was in. They were loving the buzz, loving being around people again. And it's the best thing we ever did was reopening early. It's lovely. It's great.
It's bringing people on the journey, isn't it? Rather than dictating, you must do this at this time. It's bringing people on that journey and selling the benefits of that. It's really important.
It is.
Lou, I'm going to come over to you now. Just going back to the fact that, as I said, the HBA did a survey in Q1, and we talked about kind of what is, again, stopping people, and flexible terms came up loud and clear. And I know, Callum, you mentioned at the beginning, and that's for meetings as well as accommodation. And, I know from the work talking to the hotels and venues that there's been a lot of movement in terms of a piece of business has been rebooked, or it's been rebooked again, or it's been rebooked and cancelled. There's been a lot of chopping and changing. But do you think that from the flexible terms perspective, we noticed that 25% said that they wanted more flexible terms? How do you think else we can provide this? Because obviously the corporate's policy will dictate, as we've just talked about, whether somebody will attend an event or won't they. But do you think a meeting needs to have even further flexible terms, or do you think that's going to put us in even further hot water? Because there must come a point in venues that say, actually, no, we've moved a piece of business once, twice, 3 times, or whatever. We can't move it again. Because obviously we're all in business to make money, and I appreciate we've got to support customers as well and partners, but there must come a point. And do you think it is about having even greater flexible terms, or do you think it's about really starting to kind of drive that business, or it kind of doesn't go ahead?
I think you're right. I think there's only so much flexibility that venues can actually give, especially given, as we've just talked about, the huge costs that have been involved with regards to safety, and obviously the ongoing running costs of the venues as well. I think our safety costs, when I totted them up yesterday after our call, in fixed costs, so signage and thermal imaging, temperature, were up to 130k that we've spent over the last few months to get us open. So that doesn't include costs with regards to staffing or training or anything like that. So adding in flexible terms on top of that, more than what we've already done, I think is going to get extremely difficult. I am aware that through the MIA and the DCMS, there is some lobbying going on for a government-backed insurance policy for events. And that is for the total event. And I think that that is the only way, really, that corporates are going to get the flexibility that they need with regards to putting back on live events, because the venue is only, although a big part, it's only one part of an event cost. They've got travel costs, train and plane tickets, they've got print costs and promotional costs to getting those big events back up. And they're not going to get the flexibility across all of those elements unless they've got some government-backed insurance policy. And I really think that is the way to go. But with regards to the venues and working with the corporates, I think what we've got to see is the agents working with the venues, because what we don't want is the corporates hopping from one venue to the next, to the next, to the next, until they get the preferable terms that they require. It's just not going to be. I don't think any more is going to be possible than what we've already had to do and have done.
Lee, can I?
I agree in that the event insurance you talked on.
Sorry, Lee, do you mind if I butt in? If I speak? We've noticed a big shift in our current key travellers asking for self-catering and apartments, which are not the easiest and best to book for a business traveller when they only want to go for 2 nights or 3 nights, whatever. But what I have noticed in booking all these cottages and these self-catering venues is that they all seem to have the same, in effect, COVID policy, the same terms and conditions. And I don't know whether they all pulled together or they agreed a guideline or whatever, but they were all the same on every website that I went on. And it specifically said things like, if the guidelines change between when you've booked to when your stay is, it then restricts your travel, you can have 100% refund or change your date. But if only 50% of your travellers were affected, then they seemed your booking was still feasible and no cancellation. But they were all the same. It was very comforting to read and to see. So maybe a guideline, but not that you all have to keep to it, but a guideline that, you know, us agents wouldn't ask for any more than this guideline, and each venue can choose as and when on a case-by-case basis if that guideline is going to suit this particular event, you know, booking and date and time, etc. But it was very interesting that they were all the same on every site I went on. A tiny few variations, but primarily the same basis, the same format. And it was very then useful to be able to be telling the client then what those terms and conditions were as well, because they weren't varying dramatically across.
I think accommodation is simpler, and it is more unified. Certainly on our accommodation section, it's pretty much what you've just said, Julie. So, and I think that is much simpler. And I think with regards to events and conferences and stuff like that, I think that if we can't do it, we can't do it. So we either cancel the event, as we have done, or we move it, and that's the choice of the booker, and that goes as read. That's what we've done. In terms of flexibility, I don't think we could have been any more flexible. I think you're right. I think some kind of standardised terms of flexibility. I don't know what more we can do on the MICE side, to be quite honest with you.
I think the difficulty is that the frustration is that we're all spending a huge amount of time and effort and ultimately money servicing inquiries, and we're not converting them. And the customer, I know what you're saying, Louisa, about the customer wanting to shop around to get the terms. But unfortunately, the customer a lot of the time knows that if they do shop around, they can dictate terms, because somebody is going to drop their pants. And unfortunately, that's just what happens. And as an agent, we are requested by the customer, right? If you don't get a deal there, then move on to the next one. It's not right. I'm not saying it, but that's the nature of some of the conversations that we have with our customers. I personally believe that whatever we can do, and I think a government-backed insurance policy would be fantastic. But the feedback that I'm getting from our events and venue find guys is it's cancellation policies. That's the main reason for not confirming bookings. I don't know what the answer is though.
As well, from the event insurance perspective you were just talking about there, that's actually being picked up by the APPG, which is being led by Teresa Villiers in terms of having that insurance. But as we know, with insurance at the moment, it's hard backed because of the fact that who's going to want to put that the kind of money to that, and appreciate from a government backing perspective. But the corporates, as you quite rightly said, Karen, will continue to shop around. But unfortunately, we're in this tailspin where they will keep moving from venue to venue until they get what they want, really. But actually, the venues will come to the point where they say no, they're not going to move again, or they're not going to offer that, because ultimately they've got everyone has to draw a line somewhere. But in the meantime, there is that level of consistency that is required. And I think I was talking in terms of when we push this panel discussion out, is that we are resurrecting at the HBA the Meet Safe, Meet Smart campaign, which is looking at ways in which to have messaging. At the moment, the group that we pulled together, the action group, it's looking at different ways. And as you were saying, it's, you know, tolerance above the government changes and guidelines could potentially allow a percentage difference in flexible terms. But at some point, you know, the consumer will make a decision of whether they go ahead. But the problem that we're facing as well, and what we've heard from agencies, is that it goes back to the actual delegate that are then saying, do you know what, I still don't want to attend. So you've done all that work, you've rebooked it, booked it again. They go ahead, but actually it's the delegates that are dictating. And a very clear point that I'm just reading on the chat from Mark Webster is talking about, you know, the strong duty of care. Absolutely, every employer has that duty of care element that wants to make sure that they're doing right by their employees. And we do need to influence, because ultimately, as I mentioned earlier, you know, the venues, the hotels, the service departments, all of you have spent months, over a year, putting in what you believe are safety protocols, procedures, processes, training your staff, putting new measures in at a cost. But we need to get to the end corporates for them to actually see that it is a safe environment. It's probably safer than, you know, going on a tube station like I did this morning. And as an industry, we've been tracking and tracing for years through delegate registration, delegate management. But we need to be shouting more about that to help the customer to actually feel that they are in safe hands, because they absolutely are from all the work that's gone under. So it is, as I say, the HBA are working on this Meet Safe, Meet Smart. And I'm not saying it's the be all and end all and it's going to, you know, drive business in overnight, but it will help us to have a collective voice that will go through to talk about the good stuff that actually has been done and to hopefully drive that confidence. I just want to move on. We can come back to this point because obviously it's a key topic that we wanted to debate, really. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, just keeping on the safety angle here, is that social distancing, you know, we're all hoping 17th of May and then the 21st of June, all these big milestones. At the moment, it looks like it's on track through the vaccine, through the track and trace, through the, you know, doing your own testing, that we look like we're on track for that, which will be amazing. It's actually quite interesting when we're still seeing, though, because ultimately social distancing, who knows how long that's going to be around for. And we talk about 1 meter, 2 meters, but what we are hearing as well is that venues are not necessarily quoting for pieces of business which include social distancing. Now, I appreciate from a venue's perspective, if you've got a meeting room that takes 100, then all of a sudden it can only take 50 because of social distancing. But Lou and Gareth, I just wanted to ask from your perspective, if an agent or a direct corporate comes through to you and asks for a quote on a piece of business and they're not asking for it to be socially distanced, as a rule, are you providing those choices rather than the agent or the corporate having to come back to you to requote? Are you actually proactively providing that?
No.
I don't mind who goes first.
Yeah, we're not, because we're not being asked for it. So what we did originally was we had 2 meter and then 1 meter social distancing in all the venues for all the rooms in all the venues. So all the sales office managers have that information. If we're being asked for it, obviously we can provide it. The challenge that we are coming across on the earlier vein, as everyone on the call will agree to, you know, either 1 meter or 2 meter makes a huge difference in terms of capacities in the room. But the corporates or the customers will want 2 meter or 1 meter, but they won't want to see a differential in the price, which is, you know, just not possible. And in some cases, it makes the piece of business uncommercial for us to take. So in answer to your question, we're not providing it as a matter of course, because as you said, from the 21st of June, you know, as we've been told, there are no restrictions going to be in place. But if someone asks for it, obviously we have that information ready to provide.
Yeah, I think that the same from our perspective as well. We're actually not really being asked for any social distancing mitigation on any of the inquiries sort of later on July, August time. Most of our clients seem fairly keen to get back to normal numbers. But if the government guidance dictates a specific social distancing, then obviously we will honour this in the standard rate and with the appropriate room. But if it's a client request, then obviously we'd have to put some tiered rate in for a larger room being offered.
Yeah, okay. Anything from you there, Julie or Callum, on that point? Are you being asked from customers always to provide socially distanced, or is it again upon request?
We're just doing it. Sorry, Julie.
Go on, you carry on.
We're doing it just on request if the customer asks for it. So it's our standard is a bit like Gareth saying, from the 21st of June. We are going back to normal. So that's the approach that we are taking, unless the customer specifically asks for certain criteria.
Yeah, we're the same. The clients aren't asking us for anything other than what the current guidelines are, and they're expecting us to tell them if anything changes or if we have to quote differently. So no, none of my clients have come and asked for anything special or different, or at all. They're expecting us to tell them what the guidelines are. It does make me nervous if things are really going to go back to no social distancing come June, and what that's then, if that doesn't happen, what's that then going to do to the businesses that we all have got on the books, and re-quoting and moving around. But let's not think about that. Let's stay positive today.
No, absolutely. Just with regards to accommodation, and I know things obviously have taken, they're really slow in terms of returning to accommodation, but I know both you, Callum, and Julie have been continuous to book accommodation throughout this, whether this is essential workers, key workers, or project work, or any of your other customers. Do you think, has accommodation changed in terms of length of stay, average rates, or nights of arrival? Are you seeing any patterns at the moment?
Go on, Callum, I'll let you go.
So we're definitely seeing a significant increase in the number of bookings that we are taking through. The lead times are very, very short. So back in August last year, 45% of our advanced bookings were arriving in the next 4 weeks. Now it's 63%. So the lead time, the actual bookings to arrivals is significantly different. What we're also seeing is actually offline bookings. 70% of our bookings are offline. The customer the traveller is still looking to phone up to ask questions and to understand more about the property, etc. It's costly, it's more labour intensive, but that's where the bulk of the bookings are coming through. We've seen an uplift since the turn of the year. We've seen an uplift of over 100% in terms of the value of future bookings. So everything's pointing in the right direction. But average rates are they dropped from last year, and they're staying pretty much flat. London's dead, as I'm sure you all know. Apart from that, I think from my point of view, I think there's going to be a bit of pressure. There's going to be a short-term pressure from leisure rates, because the leisure market's going to bring things back. It's going to create a little bit of a bubble, but I'm not convinced that the leisure market's going to be sustainable over the past September, October time. And then there's going to be a more reliance back on the corporates as they come back. And a lot of our customers, whilst they don't expect it, a lot of our customers have been travelling during lockdown, and are not necessarily looking for a bit of loyalty, but they're also just looking for venues to remember that they were there supporting during the difficult times.
Okay, Julie?
So here at HGS, our stats and our averages are massively, massively different to over a year ago. But it's interesting because they're very different, because the clients and the travellers who are still travelling with us throughout the lockdown were travelling with us before, but they are primarily longer stay guests. And at the beginning, yes, rates did drop. Lots of hotel chains did the flat rates and accommodated the reducing service that hotels were offering. But as we've sort of come out at the other end of the summer, rates have gone back to normal. And in some cases, rates have actually gone up because they've done exclusive use for our clients in those hotels because of the demand. So they've had to make that work, make that pay. So rate-wise, we're probably on par to what we were prior to the pandemic. However, there's very little London in there. So if you try to compare it with provinces in London, our rates have probably gone up for our clients, and our average stay is massively longer than previously. But it's simply because those that have had to continue to travel are those longer stay guests that are, whatever jobs they do that are essential key entails them to stay 4 or 5 nights at a time. What's going to be interesting is as the world reopens, all the other transient travellers that have stayed at home for the last 12 months, or on average are a 1 night, 2 night stay, when they start and they reopen again, they will pull my average right down again on the average night stay. So what I'm saying is, although it has massively changed, it's only changed because that's the business that has sustained with me, and all the transient business travellers, salespeople, whatever you want, all those people haven't travelled for 12 months. So when they come back, I think my averages will go back to where they were. However, in saying that, I think we are going to see an increase in 1 night stays moving forward. There's many of our clients who have closed many of their offices. And during this process, they've learnt that they can have home workers and they can have fewer offices and make people go to close their existing office and go to a new office, but that new office is further away from them, which I think is going to entail a 1 night stay whenever they go to visit, whereas previously they wouldn't have needed to stay over, they could travel in the day. So I think we are going to see an increase in 1 night stays across all of our clients as we start to come out of this. So it'll be interesting to compare later on, whereas at the moment the business that we were always getting previously, but because we've lost the 1 night stays, my averages look fantastic and the length of stays look fantastic. And yeah, I'm not going to lie, I wish this could be my business all the time. But I think it will start to go back, and I do think 1 night stays are going to increase.
Yeah, and I know from the leisure market perspective, somebody was saying to me earlier that I think Cornwall sitting at 98% as a destination in terms of availability, and the new sailcations, I'm sure you've all seen about the cruise ships just going around England, because leisure is filling up. And as I know from Callum what you were saying, the rates are massively being impacted, but from your perspective, Gareth and Lou, from a leisure, is that influencing your inventory in terms of your rates strategy at the moment from a short-term perspective?
Yeah, I think definitely I agree with what Julie says about the corporate market hasn't been there for the last 12 months really, and I suspect probably won't be there for a few months to come. I think the leisure market is going to dominate everything that we're doing over the coming months, and certainly for us it's kind of, I knew it was going to happen because of obviously the flights not being there and the whole sort of UK staycation market. I kind of knew it was going to happen, but I was fairly shocked at how quickly and how much it came back. And I think that will kind of dominate a lot of what we do. We're quite lucky because we've got the separate venues, so we can kind of separate our mix of business, and it doesn't really impact then what happens in our MICE venues. But certainly, I think the hotel is going to be buoyant over the next few months to come.
Gareth, are you seeing the same?
Yeah, very much so. I happened to press BBC Radio 4 this morning on my drive to Vere Latimer. Obviously, it's not a station that I listen to all the time.
Yeah, right.
But I listened to an interview with Booking.com, and they said 8 out of 10 of all their searches are being done to the UK, as you said, Lee. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, agreeing with Louisa, I think it'll be very strong over the summer period. you know, that business for all of us isn't as profitable as some other segments, but you know, it is what it is, and we're very grateful for it. So yeah, agree.
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to have to wrap up, unfortunately, just from our other speakers. Just my last question, and I can see obviously, Rachel, you put into the chat about you know, United on terms front, and you know, as an industry, you're right, we have been accommodating, really flexible. I'm going to come to you first, Julie, but what one point would you like to see change for the future working between agents and venues?
I think, gosh, I think this has brought us closer together in the last 12 months. And I think if we can continue to build on that, then this is going to be, you know, a nice, not that it's not nice already, but an even stronger and nicer industry to be in. I think what I've learned a lot through the pandemic is that the hotels are coming to us and when we do a lot of emergency response. So when a disaster has happened, instead of them calling that client direct, they are coming to us and they're knowing it's our client. And I think if we can build on that and keep that relationship and that development that we've had through this lockdown going forward, then we will all be working a lot stronger together. But when I read this question earlier, my answer, which I think was I've taken the wrong edge, but I still would like to put it forward, is that the one thing I'd like, I know that might come later, actually. No, it's fine. No, just working together and recognising the corporate client and working closer and better with the agent and hotel, I think.
The transparency.
Yes.
Would you say? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Lou, coming to you now, I'm just randomly coming.
Well, I like what Julie said, actually. I don't think really there's anything that we would change of our relationship with our agents, because we've got great relationships with our agents, and actually the last year has really reinforced those relationships and how important they are to us. And I think it's all down to respect, actually, for each other and for the value that the agents bring to us and to our business, and vice versa. And once we respect that, I think that the relationships are fundamental for us growing and moving forward. And we're really proud and pleased with the relationship that we have, because they're not just transactional relationships. Then they're a proper working business growing relationship, and we're pleased with them as we have.
Yeah, brilliant. Callum.
Off mute before I start talking. Yeah, just what both Julie and Louisa said. It's all down to continued collaboration, working together, transparency, honesty. We all know we're in here. We're all in it to make money. There's only so much pie. We just got to share the pie, and it's collaboration. We've got to work together and believe as an industry, whether it's us, the venues, other associations, etc. There's got to be greater collaboration and greater consistency.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with that. And finally, to you, Gareth.
I haven't really got much to add. I think you've said it all already. It's just about working, as Julie kicked it off with, working really closely together. We need to get our businesses back to being, from a venue point of view and an agency point of view, we need to get these businesses back to being profitable as opposed to unprofitable, which they currently are. Thank you from both sides for everyone's support in making that happen.
Absolutely, and thank you to the panelists. And I think just as a closing point, from what you said, Gareth, earlier, just about holding rates where we can, and to be influential with confidence as well. So, we are safe in terms of the venues. We have been doing this for some time, and I think it's just about how we elevate that out as well. So massive thank you to Gareth, to Lou, to Callum and Julie for your time and input there. Really, really valuable. So thank you. We are going to now take us over to our session with Sandy Mooring from GSA. So agencies, please feel free to leave the meeting now. We have already presented this at the agents engagement meeting. So this one is designed more on the venues perspective. So I will introduce Sandy now. So Sandy is here to present GSA, which is the Global Secure Accreditation to support the ISO 31030, which is travel risk management, which is due to start coming out in June this year, unless, Sandy, you tell me differently. But it's as a benchmark, and we talked about it earlier, a uniform standard of which corporates are looking at in terms of their travel policies from a mental health perspective, but also much wider than that, from accommodation, from air, ground transportation, of how, as a corporate, their responsibility to be able to provide back to their employees through culture, through traveling. So Sandy, I'm going to hand over to you. So massive thank you to the panel, and I'm going to hand over now. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Hi, everybody. A few faces I recognise, which is always encouraging. So that's great. Now, I'm just going to hopefully share my screen here, which should bring us on to, where are we? Here we go. No, that one didn't want to work. So let's go back. This is always the fun, isn't it, when you do these things? So let's go back and, ooh, here we go. See, Lee, I told you it was not destined, was it?
Oh, it's fine. Juliet's here to support if you need anything.
It's all right. I know it's in here. It's just not going to open. It's on my screen. This is the trouble when you do share screen, isn't it? It just doesn't want to pick up. So let me just go back in and project normally. And then I will hope.
We did see it momentarily.
Yeah, I know, but it wasn't on the screen that it should have been. This is the one it was. How's that? Does that look better?
Can't see it.
Okay.
Can't see it at the moment.
Right, go back to Zoom, share screen, and here we go. Let's see.
Oh, something's happening. Yep, there we go.
Perseverance. There you go. Right. So, good afternoon, everybody. Sorry about the technical little challenge there. The joys of having two screens and trying to do too much at once, when obviously I'm just not capable. But Lee, thank you very much for inviting me back. As Lee mentioned, I was here about a month ago talking to the intermediaries about the ISO 31030, and it really is something that is on the horizon now, as far as, you know, needing to be out there and understood. Now, can I see, are you seeing the display mode? Yeah. Can you see the full screen version, or are you seeing the notes section?
We can see the full screen.
Brilliant. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay, so yes, so this is all about ISO 31030, which is something that is coming in everybody's direction. And Lee, yes, there is going to be a delay. It was supposed to be last year, then COVID hit. Then it was supposed to be Q1. We then were told it was going to be Q2. I'm going to hang my hat on Q3. So I'm absolutely confident now that by September, we will have this in place. The final assessment and feedback from the committees that have been involved in advising on this have actually submitted all their final recommendations. It's now a case of, you know, people are pulling all that information together, and the final iteration of the standard is due to be presented by end of June, beginning of July. It then goes in the standardization of production, and therefore kind of like end of July, August, it's expected to be available for download. And therefore I'm saying Q3, it should be out there. So I'm sure it will be slightly earlier. So is anybody aware of what ISO 31030 is beyond its relating to travel risk management? Because not a lot of people know about it, because it's not out there as far as the information is being shared. And the only reason we have it is because one of our executive directors at GSA is actually involved on that reviewing panel. And the ISO companies have actually encouraged us to come out and educate you. So this is all part of the ISO process in order to educate you. It is relating to risk management, and let's see, has that moved on at all for you? No? Okay, we're going to have some fun here, I can see, because I can see what I can see. And I think what I'm going to do is take out the second screen and see if we can get it working better. Let me just go back to this again. Okay. I'm going to reshare my screen. Where are we? Never used to be like this, did it? Always used to work beautifully. Can you see that now?
Yep.
Brilliant, lovely. Okay, so yes, so it is due out, as I say, in Q3, and it is a guidance to organisations on how to manage risk. Now, that word guidance is highlighted because guidance is where this standard is at the moment. Now, you might kind of say, why am I calling it standard when it's guidance? The reason being is they're bringing it in as a kind of like a soft lead in for probably the first 2 or 3 years, on the basis that in 2 or 3 years' time, it will become a managed and formalized standard. So you've kind of got a couple of years to get your house in order. And what it's going to do is encourage everybody to kind of address the fact that duty of care is really, really important. Now, we know that, but the problem is there are different standards and different ways of implementing and different approaches across our industry. And I was listening to your discussion earlier on. We are an industry of the domino effect. What one person does impacts upon another, which impacts upon another. And therefore, it is that collaboration and working together is really important. Now, this is where you have to kind of say, okay, we need guidelines. Now, there's been a lot of chat amongst the buyer community, which I'm very connected with, and they are saying, they've been saying for over a year now, what are the minimum standards? What are the minimum standards that we need to work to? And that's the difficult thing, because minimum standards, first of all, is minimum good enough? Minimum is also going to differ according to where you are and the type of property that you have and the location that you're in and the type of travellers that are coming to stay with you. So this is something that is going to impact your leisure travellers and your corporate travellers and your meeting and events visitors as well. So having some kind of framework out there in the world is deemed as the right way to go. And what needs to happen is that the International Standard Organization, the ISO, are actually encouraging organizations to integrate these best practices that they're recommending in this ISO document, the 31030, into the wider remit of risk management within your properties. Now, I know, because I've travelled heaps, that all of you will have an approach that you're taking, that you've looked at. This is probably going to endorse what you're already doing and maybe encourage you to up a little in areas that you hadn't thought of before. And it is all because duty of care remains the #1 priority for organisations in order to protect their travellers and so forth. And we know that it is a moral and a legal responsibility, because none of us want to get caught up with that Corporate Manslaughter Act of 2007 or the corporate homicide in Scotland. We just need to know that we are the right side of that line. And I think that this ISO is very much going to put that stake in the ground where you can say, actually, do you know what? I've done what they've recommended. I'm comfortable that either what we've introduced or what we're already doing meets that standard, and therefore I can be more confident that we're in a stronger position. So, you know, it's really important, again, that with that benchmarking, everybody then has a clear understanding of what now in the ISO 31030 is creating as those minimum standards. Minimum being the basic, not the best. Okay, so for those of you who are interested, there is a lot in it. It covers all areas of the travel spectrum. It's covering the whole process from beginning to end. So for organizations, this is an opportunity to do a step-by-step review of what they're doing within their remit of operations with a risk management angle. Now, as I say, it covers all journeys. Now, that can be commuting, that can be traveling for normal business travel. It can be also to do with any training or groups or anything. As I say, it covers everything. Now, one of the areas that you'll see on there is authorizations. Now, authorizations have massively come into play since the impact of the pandemic. Nobody's allowed to travel without super senior sign-off. Now, reality is, as travellers are coming back into play, and the borders hopefully will start opening up and travel, which, as we know, nationally is increasing, but hopefully internationally will follow soon. It's not going to be possible for all these authorization processes to be managed as they are at the moment. So there's a lot of work that the corporates are doing to kind of assess the travellers, make sure their policies and procedures are fit for purpose for this new world, and that it's reflective of the kind of travel that they can and can't do at the moment. Now, I'm going to skip accommodation there because we're going to focus on that in a moment. But accommodation, as you can see, has actually featured as high enough to require its own section within the standard. And I think that tells you a lot about the importance that venues need and properties need to put onto understanding and reviewing the ISO content. So as far as any activities, how you communicate, whether people are being informed proactively, is it push communication or pull? Are you expecting travellers or your guests to pull information, or are you actually sending it out to them proactively? And what is the source of information? I was listening to a GBTA webinar at lunchtime today, and they were talking about the difference between misinformation and disinformation. You need to make sure that what you're providing is clear and accurate and timely, and that is a challenge at the moment. Now, you're probably really highly focused already on the safety hazards, because with all the different risks and hygiene and food safety and things like that, you have to have external certification. Well, this is the route that actually this ISO is going down. So at the moment, there is a recommendation that external certification is obtained for ISO 31030 to prove and verify that you are doing everything that you can to ensure that your venues are fit for purpose and safe environments for your guests. I think it's going to be a natural thing that it will become part of this kind of catalogue of certifications that as a property you need to have. And we talked about the fact that it doesn't matter what kind of travel you're doing, whether you're doing leisure travel, corporate travel, or pleasure, it's all going to have an impact on how you address it. Now, accommodation. Why did accommodation get its own kind of hit list? Well, basically because too many reports have come back saying that actually the risk of something happening or going wrong on a trip is more likely to be associated with the accommodation, with theft, cybersecurity, maybe an attack or something like that. And so it has warranted its own identity. Again, of course, there are different types of accommodation. So accommodation where you are booked through and it's a regular room access that you're a room booking that you're making, or the travel managers at this stage are also having to revisit their decisions regarding the shared economy, which of course is, you know, sharing is lovely, but do you know who's looking after it, and standards? And this is now again going to put that question mark over whether the sharing economy is fit for purpose on these programs. So again, the travel risk management standard is driving really, I think, business back to the venues, the traditional venues. The profile of the policies are now looking to change because of the impact of the pandemic, and business travellers who used to be those road warriors are now probably going to be a bit more nervous when they first hit that road again. So I think we have to go out there as an industry and strengthen that communication and give them the reassurance that they're coming to somewhere which they may have come to many times before, but it's under slightly different circumstances. So again, moving that forward. So my final slide, because I didn't want to egg the volume of slides on this presentation, but for venues, I think you're in a very interesting position here, because there are a lot of the rates have been carried over and the RFPs have been put on hold. And that's been done for lots of reasons, as we know. But going forward, once we are talking about returning to business, there are going to be a lot of RFPs coming out. And what the buyers are telling me is that they are going to now verify that the answers that are given to maybe some of the tick boxes that they had before are actually going to have to be substantiated with evidence. Now, for many of you who are involved in actually having large corporate accounts, you will probably know that if the company has a security team, whether that be in-house or outsourced, they will actually send representatives to your property to double check that what you've put in the RFP is correct, and they do a site inspection and everything. Well, each company that does that is eating into your time, and each of them are looking for something different. So what the ISO is recommending is that actually that these standards that are being put forward are actually followed, and Lee mentioned Global Secure Accreditation. They have got a standard that is externally assessed, and it is done per property. So each of you would each take the assessment, but it's valid for all your clients. So it would be a USP in order to position yourselves in a way that you have shown external due diligence and you have been evaluated by an external company that is recognized and supported through the ISO 31030. Plus, it's going to give you reassurance that actually other corporates are going to ride off the back of it as well. And we have there is a hotel in London that obtained accreditation literally just before, well, a year before the COVID situation, and actually a goodly new amount of business off the back of it. Now, this data here is, we did an assessment of about 12 or so companies, large companies based in the UK, who shared with us their hotel programs. No rates, no occupancy, so you're all okay. There was nothing broken there. It was just which properties they used in which cities. And from the analysis that we did, you can see how the duplication globally of these properties occurs. And it only needs just a couple of corporates to be doing this. And it's going to spread that you will then be seen as proactive and meeting the requirement of ISO. ISO is coming in. There is no doubt about it. It's, as I say, it's going to be a soft sell to start with. The opportunity to embrace it and actually obtain some accreditation to prove that you are embracing it and putting your name by it is actually going to be, I think, a bit of a changer in the scenario of those that are actively kind of putting their name by their standard. Now, one of the queries that has come out on those that are doing their own programs, and I also self-certification, is the fact that standards differ even across their own programs, and you know, it does differ as to whether it's managed or owned. So certainly for independent companies and also for chains, it is an opportunity to kind of put in a global standard. So yeah, so I think, you know, going back to the duty of care, the hotel programs, it's not onerous. I'm currently writing a training course that's going to be educating buyers and suppliers on the actual ins and outs of the course. A big part of it is about risk decision making, and they're going to make decisions that their corporate executive team are going to have to stand by, and so they need to know that it's backed by evidence of best practice. So I think you know, I think that's probably a light introduction from a venue's perspective as to, you know, what's out there, what's coming, and I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has any.
If anyone's got any questions for Sandy, please, yeah, unmute yourself and ask away.
Well, either I've covered all the answers,
or you've blown them out the water,
or I've blown them out the water, or my technical hitch at the beginning switched them off.
So Sandy, how do they find out more information, and what would be the logical next step for a venue?
Right, okay, so I've placed my email address there and my mobile number if anyone wants to take that down. You can also go to the Global Secure Accreditation website for further information, but as I say, we are literally waiting for that final version to be signed off. And then we'll be in a position to actually give more information and clarity. But the accreditation side, I honestly, it is not onerous, because I know, as you know, best practice people, and you know, you're the guys, you are the best practice people because you're here on this call listening in. So it proves that point already. I am absolutely confident that what you are doing currently would meet, if not 80%, maybe a little more of what is recommended through the accreditation process. And I think to be able to have that, that badge of honor that meets this new requirement that's coming in, that you can proactively share as a marketing strategy to your corporate clients, and to your leisure clients as well, I think will be a great step forward. What we do know from the corporates is, in their RFPs, they are asking us for what are the key questions they should now be asking, not do you have a security process and recommendation. They're looking for specifics that don't just relate to the pandemic, but to all types of hygiene and physical security as well. So we know that they've also asked a lot of the suppliers, both in the booking tools, the intermediaries, the GDSs, the things like the extras like TripBAM, who are reprocessing. They're looking for there to be an identifier in the systems that said, is this property accredited or not? And if it is, which accreditation? Is it self-certification or is it externally accredited? And externally accredited will get the highest ranking in the choice of presenting which properties stay on programme and which ones don't. And that's where the discussions are going at the moment.
So lots to look forward to then. And hopefully, Sandy, you will keep in touch with us at the association and keep us updated as things progress. Because
absolutely, yeah.
Q3, the whole world is going to happen in Q3. Everybody's hanging on for Q3 for all sorts of reasons. And I'm just, yeah, I just hope it doesn't get buried in there somewhere. Though I'm sure, as with all accreditations like this, everybody will be given a good amount of time to implement.
I think, Juliet, you're right. There is a lot, you know, hopefully happening in Q3. But I think this is an enabler because the problem that a lot of the buyers are having at the moment in their discussions with their travellers is, as I mentioned earlier on, even the road warriors are nervous now.
Yeah.
They've been out of circulation. There's more pressure from their families as to where are you going, where are you staying, what protection is there. I mean, you know, my husband would have never have asked that if I went to say I'm going on a business trip. You know, it's like, great, when you're coming back, oh, I've got 3 days of freedom, you know. But, you know, there are changes in the world, and I think we've got to kind of, the buyers are looking for help from the suppliers to encourage travellers to have that confidence and to feel safe. And having the trust, and, you know, I think earlier on you were talking, as one of the speakers was talking about, you know, we have good relationships with our buyers and our corporates and our people who stay with us. That is so true. But it's going to be a case of what's going to make them want me more than somebody down the road.
And I think that's lovely, Sandy. It ties in really well with the panel discussion we had earlier about driving confidence and our members uniting to provide that to the customer. So, yeah, and to one of our panelists, or a couple of them, that raised the fact that we need something which is across the industry in terms of a safety accreditation. Well, I know safety is only part of this, but as you say, it will go a long way to supporting confidence for our buyers. And yeah, great to know about it. So thank you very much for joining us today.
You're very welcome. And any questions, just do get in contact.
Yeah, we'll pass those on to you, Sandy, or I'm sure people will have picked that up and will contact you directly. Thank you very much.
Lovely. Okay, thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
So everybody else, if you'd like to just stay on, and yeah, Sandy appears to be on the screen.
Yeah, I'm having to exit lots of.
Oh yes. That's lovely. Thank you. Right. We're just waiting for our final speakers to arrive. So you've probably got 1 or 2 minutes where you can just kind of mentally regroup your head. We're going to be coming on to something which I'm sure is really close to your hearts. HBAA was quite instrumental in campaigning for the restart of show rounds for business events. But meanwhile, all of you, I am sure, have been touched by wanting to provide virtual show rounds to showcase your venues. And for those of you who are in the bridal market and leisure market, I'm sure you're still having to do that anyway. So our final speakers today are from Explore. And I'm just told, almost here, sorry, it's not showing in my waiting room. So I'm just gonna, here he is, okay. So yeah, our final speakers are going to be talking about virtual show rounds and perhaps giving you some pointers to think about which you may not have considered, particularly around the positive impact on sustainability. So Alan, my goodness. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Hello, Zoe. We've not met before. But
hello there. Nice to see you.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just going to have a moment here because when I first joined the HBAA, which was years ago, on the executive committee, when I was training chair, Alan Newton was also on there. And I think you looked after membership, did you not, Alan?
Members meetings, yes. Hello, George.
Yeah, hi, lovely to see you. And thank you for joining us from Canada today. And I understand your colleague Zoe's helping as well, and she's a little bit more local than Canada, but we're delighted to have you here. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you, and please take it away.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So yes, I am Zoe Maskell-Smith and I'm the sales director for Virtual. So as you mentioned, I'm joined today by our founder and COO, Alan Newton. So many of you probably recognize him. Been in the agency land for about 15 years and yes, was on the HBAA committee for 6 years, I think. I think you've done your time there, Alan. So yes, Alan's going to help me today monitor the chat. And at the end of this, I'm going to take about 10 minutes to show you our product and maybe a bit longer. And then we'll have about 10 minutes left to look at the chat and answer any questions you have. So while I'm demonstrating the product, please put your questions in chat to us and we'll have time to go through that. Before I share the screen, I just wanted to let you know that the last face-to-face I went to, last face-to-face event was actually the HBAA annual event last January in Brighton. And wow, what's changed? A lot's changed since then. So I actually worked for Hilton Hotels for 12 years and I left Hilton in September last year and joined Virtual. And what I would say is this is a very, very unique tech business. It's everyone that works in this company has either come from a hotel background, agency background, or a venue. And essentially, so we're a tech company, but we've got decades of experience and we understand the challenges that you face with your properties, trying to promote your properties, and also what your customers demand. So I don't need to tell any of you that our beloved industry has changed beyond recognition. We're now in this new world dealing with customers who have changing expectations. So long before the pandemic, there was definitely a growing demand for customers to source and explore hotels and venues virtually. Gone are the days of hotels going in to a room full of people and doing a PowerPoint presentation. Our customers now deserve tools that can give them information instantly. They don't want to spend hours trawling through websites. They want all the information in a click of a button. So the company was started 7 years ago, and Alan and Toby, the founders, recognized that there was just this growing demand for customers to have an experience, to discover, and to explore places and spaces remotely. There was nothing in the market that was high quality or met all the requirements. So they built something themselves. So the company Virtual's got 3 products. We have Eventipedia, which is our platform for event bookers and venue finders. We have Go Virtual, which is super exciting. We're going to be coming later this year with that, launching it later, which is going to be a virtual events platform. And then finally, our last product is Explore. So please allow me to introduce you to it.
Zoe, can you hear me? We've lost your sound.
That's interesting.
Oh, that's better. You come back. Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay. In and out.
In and out. Bear with me a second.
Okay.
Can you try it again, Alan? Don't worry, if not. This is when the heart starts beating. Start, you know, sweating here.
Yeah.
We just tested it as well. It was perfect.
Yeah, you're very clear now. It's just when you come onto the presentation.
Yeah, let me try. Oh. Sorry, bear with me 2 seconds. This isn't great, is it? The tech company, the tech's not working. Alan, see if you can share the, what one is it? The one we've just done.
Yeah, just a minute.
If not, if you could just share the presentation that we had, and I'll just talk through it. That might be.
Yeah.
Sorry, we had all this interactive snazzy presentation.
That'd be nice to send out afterwards, though.
Yeah. Oh. I'm trying to see if I can get my PowerPoint up. Is it working now with the sound? Let's see.
Okay, so welcome to Explore.
Yes.
So Explore helps you see the world better. And I'm going to take you now to a couple of properties, one in San Francisco and one in Florida. So this is the landing page that your clients will arrive at. You can see here the brand Grand Hyatt, San Francisco, and you click on through. So this takes you to an introductory video montage. It shows you the exact location of where the hotel is located, which is great because it can show you the area that it's in, and then gives you the address details and then takes you to the visual images. So we use some drone footage for this. So you really get a sense of where it's located. And then you arrive by taxi, you're welcomed through the front door, and then you go to check in. A lot of the team members actually were used as actors and actresses, which they loved. So now you see we're viewing the public spaces and doing a real snapshot, which really gives the customer setting the scene of this hotel, showcasing the facilities, and they get a real idea of the character of this hotel. So you can hear the music in the background. It's a multimedia experience. We can turn that off at any time. And just down here at the bottom. But also what's great is it matches, the music is matched to the content. Now, at any time you can click off this intro video and go straight to the main menu, but I'm just going to let this play out for you so that you can see what happens. Lovely views over the bay there. So now it's going to go straight from the intro montage and it's going to go into the main menu. And this is really where Explore is an absolute game changer, because this technology is innovative, it's fully interactive, and it's really immersive. So the client is here now and they can choose exactly what they want to go and look at. So for example, we are now a business traveler and we are going to, or a leisure traveler, going to have a look at the rooms. So what's fantastic is already you can put all your room type categories up there and they can have a look through. So we've got a lot of budget. Let's go for the suite. So again, you walk through, you have a look at the rooms, you get a real sense of the hotel, the room, the style, the feel. And it's quick. The information that you're getting about this room is very, very quick. And also it's a great way to show your USPs. So this suite has a sauna in it. Why not? So yeah, and then a fitness area. So then we can go back to the main menu, or you could click back and look at some more types. But now I'm just going to show you another one, which is the hotel, is a Hyatt Regency in Florida. And this one has got an entirely different feel. Again, this is the welcome. It's very light, very airy, this venue. And again, doing a same video montage at the beginning. So if I now take you straight to the main menu, and I am going to be a client now who has got a huge meeting request. Can't wait for the days when we get those again. And here is a list of the ballrooms that this hotel has. So I'm going to start with the Hall of Ambassadors. And here you are, able to see the foyer as you enter into this space. And the information that you need for this room is given very, very quickly. So you can actually pause the video, jot down any details you need, and continue. The other unique point here is you can put on capacity charts and floor plans. What's amazing about these is you can click on them and you can download them instantly into a PDF. So then, okay, we've enjoyed that. So we're going to click back, and now we want to have a look at the Venetian ballroom. So again, it's all in the customer's hands. They can choose what they want to see. There we go. And I'm just going to show you here. There is the floor plan. And it's as easy as that. You can download that. It shows the dimensions also of the room, the ceiling heights and things like that. So I hope that has given you enough of an idea about Explore. Every Explore is unique. So we strive to have the highest quality production levels. As mentioned, we were established because we felt that this was lacking out there in the market. The first thing we do when we are looking to put together an Explore is we explore your venue and your spaces with you. We find out your target market and we work together to choose the areas that you would like to film. Our team are highly skilled at creating and telling your story. This means your customers have this real immersive experience and a feeling of being in your hotel without stepping foot in it. Another very exciting thing is that we are a real sustainable company. There's a growing demand for people to work with companies who are having a positive impact on the environment and reducing their carbon footprint. Our aim is to have innovative products that are sustainable and profitable. Explore takes your venue to the client with no travel costs and zero carbon footprint. There's a few stats for you there. If you remember, people used to take flights for site inspections all the time. So this is where we feel Explore can make a real difference. So we go far beyond video. Now, what does that mean? Well, data and business intelligence have never been so critical in this new world. Every penny is being counted and companies need to show a high return on any investment that they do. We provide you with a wealth of data and real-time marketing insights that help your sales and marketing team to develop strategic and tactical campaigns. We can tell from your video what content is being viewed, for how long, what pages the clients are clicking on, and what content they're really engaging with. It will show their geographical area and also company information. We will produce you a super jazzy report with a dashboard that gives you all the high-level stats, and then you can delve in deeper. We have been working with a number of hotels, and a couple of hotels now. We've worked with Hyatt for probably about 5 years now. We've filmed about 65 of their hotels, predominantly in the US, and we've got many more in the pipeline. And Steve is a senior VP there. He's really a great ambassador for us. He loves the product. And he said the ability to deliver a differentiated experience virtually is now more important than ever. We also work with Hilton Hotels, and that's where I first found out about virtual. And my ex-colleague Landon, he said that Explore is more relevant than ever before. It's now become a must-have product. So I'm now going to just show you a couple of takeaways from this presentation. So I really want to leave you with that Explore is best in class. It's cinema quality, tailor-made, customer-centric, and takes your venue to anyone, anywhere in the world. There is no travel costs and zero carbon footprint. And Explore creates 3 times as longer engagement in your venue. So it shortens your sales cycle and also helps aid conversion. And lastly, Explore delivers a really high ROI, which also saves you time and expense. What you've got to remember is this video can be used on any platform in your hotel. You can use it on digital boards. Every staff member can use this. You can take one of the film modules and use it on social media, and you can use it on your website. So it really does a great return on investment. Now, average return on investment, 60 times. This is really based on event business and event planners. So you can actually imagine now, if we start tracking the rooms and your dining outlets and your leisure and health and wellbeing centres, we can really see that we will be able to generate a higher ROI than that. So it's a very, very exciting product. So I hope you agree that Explore is the premium way to sell your space, because your space won't sell itself unless it will. So over to Alan now. I hope you've all been busy writing lots of things in the chat. And I'm going to hand over to Alan, and he's going to start answering some of your questions. If you'd like any more information and you want us to share any of the Explore videos with you so you can look at them in more detail, please let me know, and we'll share our contact details with you. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Zoe.
No problem. Here I am, back again. I'd like to tell you that there was loads of questions in the chat, but there wasn't any. I've got, thank you, Priya. I've just seen that you said great presentation. Please send it and sales pack after the call. Absolutely, I will do, no problem at all. So is there anything else? Come on, we've got the founder here. Let's put him under some pressure. Anybody? We've got 5 minutes left. Alan, is there anything I missed? Anything you want to say?
Not really. I think you were very comprehensive in terms of what you covered about the product. You've talked about, you know, the critical thing for most hotels that we speak to and venues is the return on investment. What can they expect? And you've covered that. That return on investment is based upon the year one price. So as you go, I mean, the thing to say is that the product typically has a shelf life of around 3 years. So some hotels, in order to fund it, because marketing budgets are typically small, they look at amortizing the cost over a 3+ year period. We have some hotels that have been using theirs for 5 years. So the Andaz at London Liverpool Street, which was the first ever Hyatt we filmed, they have been using theirs for 5 years. So, you know, the investment lasts you a long time and gives you a considerably high ROI. As I say, that ROI continues year on year. I think you might be getting some questions maybe coming through, Zoe, are you?
I'm just having a look. It's just people would like us to send the sales deck to them for more information.
Yeah.
Again, yeah. So we can do that afterwards, no problem.
Of course. Yeah. Will you be able to just let HVA have it and send it out on your behalf?
Sure. Absolutely.
Right. I'm sure many of them already are working with something very similar, but it's always good to see what else is out there, because it may be that they've had something there for maybe a couple of years or so, and maybe now is the time to update it.
Yeah, I think a lot of hotels obviously have, you know, YouTube videos, or, you know, that historically that type of video, or 360. This is just taking it to the next level. Yeah, thank you very much, Juliet.
Okay. Well, if we don't have any more questions for you, I would like to say thank you again for joining us today. Look forward to sending that presentation out as part of our follow-up information. Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you very much, Zoe. And,
no problem. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
And to everyone else who's still with us, we still have just over 30 of you here, and I just want to say thank you very much for joining us today. I think many of you have been with us for the full 2 hours. I hope you have found it helpful, and we're looking forward to planning our next event, which is of course the forum, but there are other venue member events planned through the year. If any of you do want to get involved in action groups, or have colleagues who you'd like to perhaps put forward for it, maybe it's not you, maybe there's somebody else in your business that you'd like to get involved with HBAA, please do get in touch with us. You can email the executive office, and we'll get back to you about that. Just reflecting on the panel session earlier today, it was really nice to hear those 4 panelists saying how important partnerships and relationships are. And I think that's one thing, you know, certainly HBAA is really proud to be an organisation that's always focused on driving relationships and fostering those relationships and providing opportunities to grow those relationships. And I think we've had the most testing of times. It's not over yet by a long shot, but I think HBAA as a community and as a family is a really great place to be right now. And the more we can talk to you, and the more that you interact with us, the stronger we're going to all be together. So I just want to thank you again, and please stay safe, get successful. It's out there. It's really, really nearly out there. And look after yourselves, everybody. And I hope to see you in July in some format. Okay, thanks very much for your time. Bye.